to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Well. Good evening. It is Thursday, May 10th, year of our Lord 2018. I am the bloviating Zeppelin right here, one each. Now, if you had to guess, would you say that he's an XL, a 2XL, a 3XL? I'd say keep going. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct from the SHR Media Network, ensconced in this palatial and sumptuous studio, as it were. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Because Snowball is going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best stuff, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted. Lava lamp, where are you? There you are. I had to put you in the picture a little bit. There it is. And I mentioned the lava lamp because, you see, you can listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show on the... and chat. I'm sorry, I forgot. And chat. At shrmedia.com. If you want to watch the show, you can watch it on the SHR Media Facebook page right now, and the SHR Media YouTube channel, live streaming on both. Pick your poison, so to speak, and then come back to the saloon and name your poison. So, have we got a show for you tonight? We're going to have somebody that I haven't had on for quite some time. Actually, I looked to see. The last time I had her on was June of last year. So it's been almost a year since I have had KEL FRITZI on. She should be calling in at about quarter after. In the meantime... what I'd like to do is, this is kind of a weird way to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. There have to occasionally be happy stories, right? Don't there?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Here's a happy story, and here's a positive thing. It's good to know that some things never change, and one of them is the madness of Nancy Pelosi.
And thank you to our members representing communities from the coast to the heartlands, and you'll be hearing from them as well.
Now, she's talking to a bunch of Democrats and leftists at the Say No to the GOP tax scam. And they all are waiting with bated breath, mackerel, herring, I'm not sure, to listen to Nancy's cogent words.
Representative Higgins of New York, Representative Walz of Minnesota, and Representative Cleaver of Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. Now, this is it. We are here. You heard after they did their tax scam that they were giving this tax break to corporate America, that 83% of the benefits of the tax scam would go to the top 1% in our country. And
wrong. We did bring the business tax down so that we can play on a more even playing field around the entire planet. Nance.
A big chunk of that, around $1.5 trillion would go to corporate America. But don't worry, they're going to create jobs, raise wages, give bonuses, and the rest. Well, it just didn't happen. Republicans told the public they're...
Really? Nancy, it just didn't happen? Here's a weird thing. My paycheck went up $200 a month. And by the way, I make a fairly decent paycheck. I happen to be retired, mostly, and BZ's paycheck went up. So thanks, Nance, for once again, A, getting it wrong, and B, being completely unable to articulate it in the first place. Nothing better than Nancy Pelosi. And if she... the Democrats are rallying around Nancy Pelosi. Once again, they get to trot her out, just like the GOP occasionally got to trot out John McCain. Unfortunately, there's a story that a lot of people have been omitting and neglecting, and it's this from cnsnews.com, and it's unfortunately not good news, but it is completely reflective of our leftist values in education today. The headline goes something like this: 65%, let that sink in, 65% of public school 8th graders not proficient in reading. 67% not proficient in math. Woo-hoo. Way to go. Leftist educators. That's an air quote, educators, because you guys are educators, and you are clearly, obviously educating the batfuck out of America. 65% of the 8th graders in American public schools in 2017 were not proficient in reading, and 67% were not proficient in mathematics, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress test results released by the U.S. Department of Education. Let's think about that just for a moment. Who runs education in America? Oh, that's right, leftists. While we're on the topic of leftists, we should also bring up what other people would call the mainstream media. I term the American media maggots. I found an article. It was brought to my attention. It's from Yahoo News. And you have to look at the incredibly biased fashion in which this story is crafted, because it's not until buried deep in the story is the kernel of truth, because the headline itself is vastly misleading, because victims. Simple as that. Again, from Yahoo News. Women are more likely to die waiting for an organ due to a mix of biology and bias. Damn, if I had a producer. Let's see. If I had a producer, a mixture of bias and biology. And, okay, I know. I have to go back to being my own producer, and it can get a little busy in here. You have to go down to the article. First, you hear about an individual named Kaylee Hebert. As she was 22, she was told she was too sick for a lung transplant and would die. Her doctors recommended focusing on quality of life with her limited time remaining, and she was given do not resuscitate forms. She quit her job as a pastry chef, and her mother and brother moved nearby to be with her. The article then continues, and you go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 paragraphs down. Only do you get this little bitty nugget of truth. And this is why it was so many paragraphs down. This factor likely contributed to Hebert's long wait. At 4 feet 11 inches tall, her body could only accept lungs from someone similarly sized or smaller. While waiting for a transplant, Hebert was told that she might be restricted to lungs from a pediatric donor pool. Of course, the article couldn't fail to get this jab in as well. What this has to do with the rest of the article, I don't quite know. Women are also, on average, smarter than men. This fact is important to transplant patients because while larger people can typically accept smaller organs, smaller people cannot accept larger organs. Now, please tell me what the first sentence has to do with the rest of the article or the rest of the paragraph that follows. Does anyone here see something similar to a lapse in cogency just a bit here? What does women are also on average smarter than men? What does that have to do with much of anything? Here's another story that got buried. Or I don't know, if you heard about it, you may have been kind of unique. It was a horrible story, a tragic story, but on the other hand, I don't know, maybe you can say it's reflective. I believe it is completely reflective of, I'll just go out and say it, the insanity of leftists today. It's an article from Fox News. It was, no, I take it back. No, the New York Post. The headline read, David Buckle, prominent gay rights lawyer, burns himself to death in New York to protest global warming. That's absolutely correct. A green activist who was a pioneering lawyer for gay and transgender rights, including the notorious Boys Don't Cry rape murder case, committed suicide by setting himself on fire Saturday morning in Brooklyn's Prospect Park in a grisly act of protest against the ecological destruction of the earth. Stop. Obviously, this is an individual that felt very tortured. In that aspect, I'm sorry for him, and I'm sorry for his family, who had to put up with probably was a rather tedious individual, and my guess would be, like most leftists, laughed little, smiled little, and must have, to do something like that, must have evidently had an incredibly tortured life himself. But to kill oneself, worse, by setting oneself on fire because of the ecological damage done to the earth, when still, to this day, all the facts are not in. We still do not have a continuous marking of how the earth has changed, how weather has changed over hundreds and hundreds and perhaps even thousands of years, and how do we know what cycle we're in? To kill yourself over something like this would be to have killed yourself in the 60s over Paul Ehrlich's book. Paul Ehrlich wrote a book called The Population Bomb, which I read as a college student. At the time, semi-believing that we were on the road to destruction and ruin. Now, if I had a damaged mind like that individual, or if some of the other people that were leftists like myself at the time, because, trust me, I was a leftist in college, I would have killed myself over something that was proven to be factually false. There was no population bomb. The entire planet did not die. It wasn't like a Star Trek episode where through the window you see nothing but a corridor of people jammed packed together. It didn't occur. It didn't come to fruition, and we are still producing food all throughout the United States, in California, in Europe, South America, and people aren't dying like was projected by Paul Ehrlich. So leftists, I don't believe they're happy people at all. I really, truly don't. If you happen to know any, not just casual leftists, but I mean really damned dyed-in-the-wool leftists, you have to ask yourself, number one, do you really know any that are that hard to port? I don't personally know any because I don't care to have my life so wrapped up in being a downer. Life is enough of a downer without having somebody like that holding you down. But leftists are unhappy people. I'm sorry for his family. I can't necessarily say that I'm sorry for this guy, because to have done that over the ecology of the planet, dude, you are damaged. I mean, and worse, to have done that by setting yourself ablaze, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Now, I want to say this, having led in, and I told everyone that we're going to have a guest at about quarter after, and we do, in fact, have someone that has called in, and so I want to transition over and say this. Tonight, we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming back someone who hasn't been in the saloon for a while, and like I said, it's been about a year, June of last year. And it's the wonderful KEL FRITZI, the Canadian infidel, who's joining us again in the saloon. Now, she runs RFB, Red Fox Blogger Radio, if I got those initials correct, whose fantastic radio shows can be heard on Spreaker and, of course, on Blog Talk Radio. She is on Facebook. She's on Twitter at Mike Ruffian C. And I'm going to ask her about that. Trust me. Her show on Blog Talk Radio called RFB Radio, the Canadian Infidel, you can hear it on Mondays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I got to say, that's some kind of CV. So let's just say that, in summary, she's an expert on Islam and, of course, all things Canadian. So, all right, Canadian, don't even go there. Just, stop with the Molson jokes, all right? KEL FRITZI is also a very accomplished producer of radio shows, and she's been doing that for a number of years. She has the tech know-how, she has the chops, and she has a very presentable and loving keyboard cat, except I forget the cat's name. So, KEL FRITZI, welcome back to the Saloon Madam.
My goodness, my Biffy, how are you?
And
thank you for that introduction.
Well,
that was really nice.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. And you have a lot of photographs on the internet, working your show and typing on the keyboard and whatnot. And the cat is usually either splayed on the keyboard or splayed across your shoulders. Pick one. But I forgot. What's the name of the cat?
That would be Miko.
Miko. Okay. Alrighty. So,
and just as an aside, Miko has decided that she found a box that is 8 inches by 8 inches by 3 inches high. She is 15 pounds. She's very big, and she's found a way to sleep in it. Miko finds a way to sleep everywhere. But I am so honored to be on your program. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
It's my honor and my pleasure. You talk about forcing cats into a box. I got to tell you a little bit of a story. There's a guy by the name of Whiskey Dale who listens to the show. Now, I haven't been into chat, and I'm going to get there in just a second, but he sent me, honest to God, he sent me a stuffed bobcat. And this thing came in the mail to the front door of the BZ abode. And I was going to have a contest to name the bobcat. But in the meantime, let's see if I have a photograph. Yeah, here we go. Here is the bobcat in the saloon. Sackheads Clint showed it last night. And it's looking at me from across the room right now. Before I continue, and the introduction that I gave, with all that kind of stuff, my memory is not so great, and I must have left something out. So what did I leave out of your CV? You do another radio show, if I'm not mistaken, so update me. There must have been something that I left out of all the stuff that you do.
IAW Radio, courtesy of Global Patriot Radio.
Okay.
I'm on there Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, that's all I left out?
That's it.
Wow, I'm shocked. Amazing. Now, I'm going to start the show this way. You wrote at about 8 months ago or something like that, in the process of looking up some stuff on you, you wrote, "Hello, my name is KEL FRITZI, and I'm a racist and an Islamo-whamophobe. a Nazi, a bigot, a sexist, a man-hater, a woman-hater, an eater of live kittens, a stealer of children's candy, white supremacist, shooter of migrant floating devices, opposer of Canada, Trudeau, a.k.a. Shiny Pony. I'm responsible for the suppression of the marginalized, a drinker of that racist beverage, milk, a lover of the white moose, oppose Sitzpickeln, and a Trump supporter. So I have to say, okay, if nothing else, you're certainly multifaceted, but let's start here. Why did you write those things?
Because all of them are absolutely true. And may I mention, before we continue with that, I am remiss that I am a new panelist on Reactionary Speaks radio program, heard Friday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, courtesy of Spreaker. So I have to, that's Ideas Are Bulletproof. So I forgot that. I have to send that to you. I'm brand new. I'm getting used to all of my CV credits here. But, yeah, getting to why I wrote that, it's because it's so true, is that I am all in everything of those things, in that I totally believe that we have to start standing up for ourselves, and we have to stop being afraid of being what we are in speaking our truths. And I'm not speaking Oprah Winfrey truths, people. We have a right and we have an obligation to be honest with ourselves and to be honest with our fellows. In that, you know what, there are issues out there in that we have to address them. I am everything that I am. And what you just said there, I stand behind every single word. There is no reason in that we have to deny our truthsisms, and we shall never, ever deny our heritage, our belief systems, and everything else. That means that we are a conduit of the truth. I believe that we are. I look around and I see all of these front groups out there. It's frightening to me. We see the Antifa, we see the front groups with the Council on American Islamic Relations, we see the Soros-funded Black Lives Matter. All I see is division. And I decided to write that and say, this is who I am. If you don't like it, walk away. If you don't like it, get in touch with me, and we'll have a dialogue. But you know what? It's impossible, it seems, these days to engage in dialogue. I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine. I said, look, I cannot even go on a comment board and defend a woman who defends her position on traditionalism. I was shut down. I was called a racialist. I was called a phobe. And phobe, you can put that in front of anything that matters to you.
Yeah.
In their mind. It's disgusting in that we cannot even have a common discourse any longer these days.
It's very, very true. Now, for the people that are not familiar with you, and by the way, I want to say thanks to all the people that are already in chat. Simone's in chat, Mike's in chat, you're in chat, thanks for being there. The Traveling Cynic is in chat, Whiskey Dale is in chat, Mary Brockman is in chat, so thanks for everybody for being right here in chat, and not on the Facebook chat and not on the YouTube chat, because everybody chats right here in shrmedia.com, so thanks for being there. But tell me a little bit about your background. We talked about it a year ago, but the one thing that I think everybody who may not be familiar with you needs to realize is You're speaking mostly about Canada. You are a Canadian. You're not here in the United States. You're north of us. And Canada has its very own separate list of issues and problems that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so we find, and I am sure that you'll verify this, that number one, Canada doesn't have a First Amendment per se, and that almost everything that you want to do in terms of speech is limited by Canada itself. So being a bastion of freedom, Canada is not necessarily that country. So tell us a little bit about where you are, where you're in Canada, and a little bit about Canada itself and its background. And, well, number one, first, were you born there?
Absolutely. I was born here.
Okay, so you are a proud Canadian. You're proud, I'm guessing, at one time at least, you're proud to be a Canadian.
I am very proud of my heritage. I am very proud of my forefathers that helped build this country. I am very proud of my grandfather and father who fought in World War I and World War II to maintain the integrity of Canada and the Commonwealth. I am part of the Commonwealth. I am a subject of Queen Elizabeth. I'm proud of that. I am very proud of the heritage of Canada. But what I am not proud of today is residing in what I consider to be Trudeau, Canada. I feel like I am now an outsider looking in to my former country. Justin Trudeau, he is the current Prime Minister of Canada, and he has done everything that he can possibly do to usurp the history, the integrity, the culture, and the heritage of this country. I am fighting tooth and nail to ensure that we do not allow this to continue. This person is dangerous to the country, and it upsets me to no end that I have to deal with this. I am so tired of getting on my soapbox and screaming for the existence of my country. I should not have to do that.
No, you shouldn't.
This country has existed for 250 some odd years, and there is no reason, ever since the B&A agreement, ever since the Constitution, our Constitution as we know it, was established, ever since we had our own sovereignty, ever since we had autonomy, ever since we had enablement of establishing our own Constitution and our own, in our own Charter of Rights, that should have been immutable, but it's not anymore. This current Prime Minister is determined to ensure that Canada is going to be the first post-national nation in the West. Well, what is that? If you're post-national, you don't have a nation. We have to ensure that we do not let him get away with this. I don't want a country without borders. I don't want a country that is run by globalists. And this is what we're seeing right now in Trudeau, Canada. Now, you're right. I am very proud of Canada. I'm very proud to be a Canadian. But I will not be part of a globalist ideology within my country. And this Prime Minister is ensuring that we are post-national down the road. I am frightened by his lack of border security. I'm very concerned about his inviting in all of these migrants. He is putting immigrants at the back of the line, like real, true immigrants that want to enter the country and contribute. And we have had that for so many decades. We have had people that have contributed to the country, and now they're put at the back burner because Justin Trudeau is bringing in all these migrants. The southern border is open wide, and everybody come on in. It's very frightening to me.
It is very frightening. It's time to take a break. We're going to be gone for about 4 minutes or so. That gives you time to use the electric winkle chamber if you need to, folks. You're listening to KEL FRITZI. She's our guest tonight here at the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. When we come back, I'm going to ask Kel what she happened to think of Stephen Harper, a prior prime minister, and how is it that Canada used to get away with demanding that, say, if Chinese individuals moved into Canada, they had to bring a minimum of $10,000 with them and prove why they needed to be in Canada. Boy, have things changed, haven't they? Folks, be right back after this.
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads radio show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com. And maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the Bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of...
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You certainly are. It's the second segment of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct here on the SHR Media Network, ensconced within the scrumptious and palatial studio, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Tonight, we have the distinct honor and pleasure of talking to KEL FRITZI, and I asked her a question before we went to the break, and I said, hey, KEL, what did you think of that cat named Stephen Harper, who was a previous prime minister? And perhaps now that you're back, can we compare and contrast maybe a little bit of Harper versus Trudeau these days?
Oh, first of all, there is absolutely no comparison. Stephen Harper was indeed a statesman. He was
Bingo.
a servant of the people, and he realized his role. He was keeping Canada on an even keel when we were going through the financial crisis years ago. Stephen Harper kept Canada afloat, and he kept the deficit so very low. The Trudeau government, on the contrast, has ballooned our deficit to something like $84 billion. It's going to be $84 billion in 2024. It's going to be amazing
Birdseed.
what Canada is going to see. He is not controlling spending. He is not controlling the bloated government. Stephen Harper was small government, and that really sustained us. Justin Trudeau, he is big government, and he keeps inventing all of these portfolios in his caucus. We have more portfolios now than we have ever seen in our lifetimes. Like, it is amazing what Justin Trudeau is doing to destroy the economy of Canada, unlike Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper was also a very great person on the world stage. He was well respected, thus Canada was well respected, and that people paid attention when Stephen Harper spoke, that they sat up straight in their chairs and listened to him. When he addressed the UN Assembly, for example, in the United States, I believe it was in 2012 or 2013. My apologies for not getting the date right. But when he stood up and said that Canada is a place for business because he had lowered the corporate tax rate, that was a big deal. And people were literally clamoring into the country to set up business because the corporate tax rate was so low. The economy just boomed with that. I think he lowered it to something like 14%. Now,
wonderful.
Justin Trudeau comes along and he boosted up to something like 22%. And businesses are flying out of the country now. We have lost two major corporations to the United States.
Really?
And I certainly have no umbrage to the United States for that, because you're a wonderful president. I think that Donald Trump has done a wonderful thing in slashing the corporate tax.
Yep.
We have lost Campbell's Soup. which is a Canadian-based company, they shut down. They had been operating for decades here. And they said, you know what? We can't handle the corporate tax rate. We can't keep our employees. We can't do anything here. We can't foreign trade because of this rate. And so they are moving their operations to the United States. And we are also losing, many other businesses are leaving. The other major business that we lost is a car company, and that is Chrysler. They had a manufacturing plant up here.
Oh, you're right.
Said, no.
Yep, you're right. Chrysler was up in Canada for a while. Yep.
Yeah. And they've gone back to the United States. They can't deal with the corporate tax rate that Justin Trudeau has imposed. So to get back to the crux of your question, is that Stephen Harper was great for the country economically wise, and he was great for the country in terms of ensuring that the integrity of Canada stay in place. He was introducing bills that would ensure the safety of Canada as well. He introduced bills that would ensure that those that were convicted of terrorism, if they had dual citizenship, they would lose their Canadian citizenship, and they would be shipped back to their country of origin.
Not anymore.
Justin Trudeau has changed that. It is unreal what this person is up to here.
Well, you
Justin Trudeau wants to bring back ISIS terrorists for rehabilitation.
You can have all the ISIS terrorists you want. I will gladly give any and all of them to you. You also at one time had a very important viewpoint in terms of immigration. Well, let me back up a little bit. Stephen Harper, and correct me if I'm wrong, also was a major pusher and advocate of Alberta. Alberta became a powerhouse of tar sands, oil. It became a real boon to the Canadian economy, did it not?
Absolutely, it did. And Stephen Harper was an advocate for the oil pipelines. He was instrumental in negotiations in getting the pipeline from Alberta down to the United States.
Right, the Keystone XL.
That would, that I'm trying to think of the name of the pipeline, but he was instrumental in getting that off the ground. But he was also negotiating with your former usurper in the White House.
Oh, right.
And that was Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah.
And it was just a real mess. And that.
Well, I can read. Here's one thing I distinctly remember on my last trip to Canada. I like to go to BC, and I've been there 3 times. The first time that I was there, I can remember having gone through Vancouver and then noticing that, wow, there seemed to be a lot of really influential and really well-heeled Chinese individuals around here. And somebody took me aside as we were on a ferry and said, by the way, when Chinese individuals come here, it is merit-based immigration. And, oh, yeah, they have to bring a minimum of $10,000 with them if they want to come into Canada. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. I was gobsmacked that Canada was doing something, what I would consider to be the utilization of so much common sense. If you import individuals, make sure that you import quality individuals. And my God, Kel, you guys had that. You had it perfect. You had it nailed.
Well, we did. And thank you for reminding me in the chat room. The Keystone XL pipeline, that was ours by the tail. That was ours to have. And, of course, the Obama administration, they carboshed that. And this was tragic because this would have
it would have been perfect for
created
both nations.
So many jobs for American people. Now, this Keystone pipeline, people, keep in mind, that this would have delivered oil from Alberta. It would have delivered oil over 3,456 kilometers to the junction of Steel City, Nebraska, and onto Wood River Refinery in Roxana, Illinois, Patoka Oil Terminal Hub, north of Patoka, Illinois, right down to Texas for refinery.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people had concerns about that because this was crude oil that we would be importing. People, the protesters out there with their placards, were very concerned about the crude oil transportation. And I'm being polite here, but
You're being very
the thing
polite.
is that we had phase 1 done, we had phase 2 done, we had phase 3A done, we had phase 3B in development. We had phase 4 proposed, and it was approved. This oil coming down from Hardisty, Alberta, all the way down to Houston, Texas, it would have been a safe transportation, and Houston would have refined that oil. And it was carboshed by the Obama administration, and that is what Stephen Harper was trying to do. And now what we're dealing with is that we're trying to deal with another pipeline that is being carboshed. And this is the Northern Mountain Pipeline. And this would run from Alberta through the province of British Columbia, and it would go off into oil, to Asia. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're looking for a port.
Yeah, it is. What it is that this is nothing more than a ruse by what I consider to be the Trudeau government.
Well, the Keystone XL pipeline would have been a wonderful boon to the economy of both of our nations because much of the pipeline interface and infrastructure was already in place in some portions of the states with which it would run. It's already been proven that the Trans-Alaska Pipeline has few safety concerns. They've had some occasional leaks, but nothing on the order that environmentalists thought it would be spraying oil and killing animals for years to come, and that crap just didn't happen. So what Alberta wanted to do, what Canada wanted to do, was open up the Keystone XL pipeline and run everything down into basically what Texas calls the Chemical Coast. The Chemical Coast is the massive array of refineries on the coast, the Gulf of Mexico, basically, and that's where all the big transportation goes. And then the United States is the biggest exporter of refined petroleum. That's our number one export. And so the Keystone XL pipeline from Alberta north, running south, and then down to the Chemical Coast around Houston, where you can fill up all these massive crude tankers and ship it away, that would have been a wonderful and outstanding boon to both Canada and the United States of America.
Yeah, exactly. And, of course, what is happening right now is that we have seen all but a halt on the Trans Mountain pipeline, commonly known as the Kinder Mountain pipeline. My apologies, not the Kinder Mountain. It would be commonly known as the Kinder Morgan pipeline.
Right, okay.
And it is being wiped out, too. Now, this is very frightening because we were quite sure that the Kinder Morgan pipeline, just to use the commonality there, it would be a go. But we have the protest once again going on, and it is it's a real mess here in that. We have put so much investment in the development of this pipeline, and now it looks like it is being shut down. And we're having a lot of people, outside entities, interfering. Never mind the British Columbia Premier, John Horgan, and the Vancouver Mayor, Gregor Robertson, and all of the other Canadians, including First Nations, which I refer to as North American Indians. They're fighting to stop the pipeline that is owned by Kinder Morgan. Kinder Morgan 2 months ago said, hey, look, Justin Trudeau, if we don't have a deal with this pipeline, we're going to stop production because we have an obligation to our shareholders. If we cannot ensure the investors that this is going to be a go, then we have to halt production. And that was a financial viability of $7.4 billion. That was a project of $7.4 billion. And that was just to get the construction, started. This is unreal in that Justin Trudeau has ensured that the Kinder Morgan pipeline will halt. The Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion amid BC opposition is unreal. That we have one province that is holding the entire country hostage over holding down this wonderful initiative.
Sounds like California.
In California.
Yeah, California is the same damn thing.
Yeah. It's just unreal to me that we can have these interest groups shut down an entire industry, as it were, a national industry that would be beneficial to the country of Canada. We would finally be independent of foreign oil. We would finally, maybe, hopefully, be off the teat of OPEC. And that, of course, is the organization. I'll get that acronym in a moment. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Justin Trudeau, what he's doing is that he is shutting down everything and anything he can to make Canada dependent on foreign entities. This is really, really frightening, and people should be aware of this, okay? Is that OPEC is very dangerous. OPEC is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and it's an intergovernmental organization of 14 nations, and this was established as of February of 2018, my apologies. It was founded in 1960 in Baghdad by the first 5 members, and the headquarters since 1965 in Vienna, Austria. This was our stranglehold. This was our stranglehold.
Well,
this was our
that's what it made
to
us
Saudi
beholden.
Arabia.
Yes, it made us beholden to the entire Middle East, which is why under Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, has straught and continues to strive for energy independence, because the more we can hold the Middle East at bay, at least thank God we have the Atlantic between us, Canada, the United States, and the Middle East itself.
Exactly.
That's one positive thing that we have. Every country deserves to be energy independent. And the thing that confounded me with Barack Hussein Obama, and also confounds me now with Trudeau, is the fact that just like there are blood diamonds and conflict diamonds, they want them to be enslaved into blood oil and conflict oil. I do not, for the life of me, understand that reasoning. That makes no sense whatsoever. None. Europe, for example, gets a bunch of its gas from Russia, from Gazprom, which is why the EU kind of dances very daintily around the issue of Russia and Gazprom and the oil. They have to be very careful with that, which is also the reason that they don't want to upset Iran. One of the reasons that France and Germany don't want to get into, or they don't want to have the Iran deal kicked to the curb, is because Germany and France sell shit to Iran. Oh, that would also be including reactor parts, fissile materials, things that you can use to build, I don't know, say centrifuges et al. All right, we've beaten that into the ground. Now I want to find out some things, a few more things about you. Why or how was there any particular incident or series of incidents that made you interested in Islam's presence in Canada? Because I know that you are a specialist in this and you keep an eyeball firmly on what Islam is doing in Canada. And that's one of the primary reasons that people listen to you, because of your sagacity with regard to this.
I will tell you. I woke up on a Tuesday morning and turned on my radio show on my little transistor in the kitchen whilst I be making my morning tea. And I kept hearing these reports about buildings being, they were hit by a plane.
Right.
And at first they were reporting that it was a small commuter plane that had accidentally hit one of the World Trade Center buildings. So I was listening intently. Now, mind you, I did not have a computer back then. Yes, I'm a Luddite.
Like me.
But I was listening, and then I turned on the TV. I didn't even know what the World Trade Centers were back then. I thought it was just a building in New York City. But when I turned on the TV, eventually found out what was going on. I was there, and the second plane hit, and I thought, oh, that's not a little commuter plane. That's a big airline. And I was watching. I was wondering, what on earth is going on? I really didn't understand the ideology of Islam. I didn't even know what Islam meant. If anybody came to me and said, I'm a Muslim, I would have said, oh, yeah, good for you. Have a great day. See you, chap. But I got a computer a year later, and I started to research the attacks on the World Trade Centers. And then I was thinking, well, this is very, very disturbing. And so I started joining groups that talked about the issues of Islam. People like Sultan Kanish and people like Robert Spencer, their website, and Gaudy Edelman. And I thought, well, maybe I should read this Quran. And I read the Quran. I've read it now about 3.5 times because I have to for what I do today.
Right.
But I just started researching the ideology of Islam. And I was thinking, this is a very, very dangerous entity within our midst. And then I started researching auxiliary groups of Islam, like the Council on American Islamic Relations, the Muslim Student Association, and I concluded that we have an enemy at the gate. No, the enemy is within the gate. People talk about the camel's nose in the tent. We have allowed the whole camel in the tent.
Yep.
In that we are appeasers, and I say that with air quotes. But Islam is a very dangerous entity. If you read the Quran, it has not been abridged. It has not been modified. It has not been brought up to speed to meet the ideology of the 20th, 21st century as we're living in right now. It has never been reformed. In that, if you're Mohammedan, you have to abide by the book of the Holy Quran. If you read the Siras, if you read the Hadiths, you will understand that the word of Muhammad is indeed the holy word. He is the perfect man, and you have to abide by his word. The book has never been reformed, ever. Unlike the Bible, we now follow the King James version of the Bible, right? And that we don't run around and crucify heretics. We are not the Inquisition, as it were, like what happened in Spain many, many, many centuries ago. But Islam refuses to be reformed, and it
On that note,
practices the words of and the deeds of Muhammad. Ever since Muhammad left Medina and went to Mecca, he is still revered as the perfect example of how a Muslim must execute himself in terms of ensuring a caliphate, ensuring the
KEL
death
FRITZI,
to the infidel.
I'm going to have to take a break.
This disturbed me greatly, and thus I speak about it to the best of my ability. I can be rather halting in my delivery, but I think that I know more about Islam than the average person, and that
I agree with
have
that.
an obligation to share that out, because we are seeing demises all over right now. What we're seeing in Europe is abysmal. What we're seeing in particular...
Hey, Kel, can you hang on?
In Bulgaria.
Kel, are you even hearing me?
An Islam party, for goodness sake. They are stealth jihad moving in on us right now, and people don't realize it. But I'm an Islamophobe.
Kel, can you hear me at all? Kel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. All right, perfect. We're going to have to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask KEL FRITZI. We're talking to KEL FRITZI. When we come back, I'm going to ask her about the current state of Islam in Canada. So don't go away, folks. We're going to continue talking with KEL FRITZI. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the Bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for a good for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know, I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're live, we're back, we're direct. You are, in fact, listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show on the SHR Media Network, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, 2 miles from the belly of the beast, the proverbial Bill Mill, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, to possibly include the locus of evil in all of the United States. At night, at certain periods of time, you can smell the evil, the sulfur, the brimstone wafting throughout the corridors of Sacramento. It's that evil. We're talking to KEL FRITZI from RFB Radio, and she's been talking about Canada and Islam, and I posed a question to her before the break, and I said, hey, Kel, can you tell us, and Madame, will you tell us the current state of Islam in Canada?
Oh, it's terrible. It's absolutely abhorrent. It is amazing what is happening up here in terms of the Islamic appeasement with the federal government. We have a cabinet, I swear, half of it is stacked with the Muslim Brotherhood. We have a backbencher. Her name is Iqua Khalid.
Great.
And she introduced a motion called Motion 103, tabled. Well, it's she tabled this, and we call it the anti-Islamophobia bill. Now, what is in this motion? It's not a bill. I must declare that right now. It's not a bill yet, but it could be a bill. It's a motion that was proposed.
Okay.
And this would make it illegal to speak negatively about religion. But it concentrated on the idea that Canada is rife with Islamophobic ideologies, and that while you cannot speak ill of Islam, and the entire Liberal government, Trudeau government, they approved of this Motion 103. We are waiting to see what happens with it. Nothing has happened so far with it, but it was approved by the study committee. That would be the Heritage Foundation. and they said, yeah, we have a few problems with Islamophobia in this country. However, we do not want to go so far as to say that Canadians are outright Islamophobic. However, if you point out to a Muslim, hey, I want to have a conversation with you about your Quran and some of the passages in it. I don't agree with this. I think that your ideology does not belong in this country. Like coherent dialogue, right? It would be considered hate speech. This is what we're facing right now in Canada. And Justin Trudeau, he's importing all of these Mohammedans from the Middle East and North Africa right now, just like Europe is doing. We have Justin Trudeau. He is fast-tracking citizenship for migrants. And please, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain one thing, is that there is a vast difference between immigrants and migrants. We welcome immigrants in Canada. We want immigrants to come and join the country and assimilate and be part of it and contribute, and that is what most immigrants do. We are dealing, though, with migrants, and the immigrants that are applying to join the country are being pushed to the back burner. Justin Trudeau is bringing in the migrants. We are having issues with the southern border, the Canada-U.S. border, in that Justin Trudeau, he tweeted in the winter of last year, I think it was January or February, pardon my aberration on dates, in 2017, all the same, is that Justin Trudeau tweeted that all are welcome in Canada. Diversity is our strength. So we saw a total exodus of migrants swimming up from the United States into Canada. Now, another thing I want to make clear is that I have no grudge against the United States for allowing this, because we have a third safe country agreement. And that if people enter into the country as a refugee, for example, if they enter a port of entry and they have a legitimate claim, they're more than welcome. But what is happening is that the port of entry doesn't include the entire border of Canada. So these people were swimming across borders that were forests and swamps and whatever, and Trudeau Canada was welcoming them. This is absolutely no fault of the United States of America. This is the absolute fault of Trudeau Canada. So we're dealing with that. We also have a Minister of Immigration, and he is Ahmad Hussein. He is a Somalian refugee. He arrived in the country when he was 13. So he, of course, is very sympathetic to those that are not legitimate immigrants. He sees them all as refugees, but they're not. They're migrants. They're migrants, and they are looking for a country with the best benefits. They're country shoppers.
Yes, exactly.
Like
Thank you.
in Europe. They're country shoppers.
Yes.
And what's happening, of course, is that a lot of these people in the United States that were welcomed into the country, that their protected status is up. Now, these people were welcomed into the United States being a very, very, very benevolent country and very humanitarian. They said, hey, there's a lot of trouble in your country. There's a civil war going on. You're enduring natural disasters like what we saw in Haiti. And the United States said, yes, please, come and stay with us for a little bit until things stabilize. and things stabilized. Okay, so their protected status was expiring. And, well, some of them had already expired. Well, they don't want to go back to Haiti. They don't want to go back to Guatemala. They don't want to go back to the Honduras. They don't want to go back to their shitholes. They want to stay in the United States. Well, the United States is saying, well, no, your country is secure now. You can go home. They're not doing that. They're heading north of the border, and they are entering Canada. And Justin Trudeau, Canada, is welcoming them. So now Canada is inundated with like 400 illegal entries a month now. And this is only the beginning of May.
Which is nothing.
It's going to get worse. We have already allowed over 6,500 into the country within our fiscal year. This is unbelievable. Canada is a big geographic country, but we are, in terms of populace, very small, which means that reflects on our social services and our health benefits, like that includes our health benefits,
right,
and our welfare programs. And this is a drain on the Canadian economy, and the taxpayer is paying for this. But what is going on otherwise is that Justin Trudeau is that he introduced Bill C-76. In Bill C-76, it was passed in Parliament because Justin Trudeau has a Liberal majority in that we can fast-track migrants to obtain landed immigrant status and apply for full citizenship within 2 years. Now, under the previous government, and that would be Stephen Harper, he declared that if you are arriving in this country, you have to wait 2 years to apply for landed immigrant status, and then another 2 years before you could apply for full Canadian citizenship. Many years ago, it used to be 12 years, but we lowered that and we lowered that. Well, Justin Trudeau has pretty much lowered it to the point where if you land in Canada in 2015, you can be a full citizen by 2017. And, you know, that's the thing. You know, you bring up a good point, BC, is that 6,500, that's only within one, you know, I'm not even right on that figure, I think. The thing is that Justin Trudeau is fast-tracking these people into full Canadian citizenship, and that doesn't even matter. That was Bill C-75. He has also introduced Bill C-76, which means that he is changing the electoral system. You don't have to be a Canadian citizen to vote. Well, it's one of those, you know, don't tell sort of scenarios. If you're new to Canada, but you're not a Canadian citizen, it doesn't matter. We'll lie for you.
Sure.
You can
come on, come all.
With somebody who is a Canadian citizen, and they'll vouch for you and say, oh, yeah, this guy's a Canadian citizenship. Here's his utility bill, and he wants to vote, despite the fact that he's not registered. This is how bad it is getting. Now, I want to bring up the exact figure of how many people have entered Canada ever since Justin Trudeau took to the helm. this is going to blow your minds
Okay.
because it's devastating. It's hurting us very, very bad. We don't know what to do with these. We don't know how we're going to deal with all of these migrants in this country. And I am going to bring up an article right now. And this is really disturbing. This is from the number of illegals entering Canada in March. And that tripled in January. And that is from this fiscal year. This is unbelievable. Illegals now comprise 20% of all asylum claims filed in Canada, with the Liberal government looking increasingly powerless to address the problem. This is unreal. We are dealing with the Canadian Immigration Department. We have 887 asylum seekers illegally entering Canada this month. And this is from January of 2018. We have had 1,860 enter the country since January of 2018. Now, you do the math. I cited a very conservative figure. You do the math as to what's been going on ever since Justin Trudeau tweeted out in the winter of 2017. All are welcome. We are a welcoming country. Diversity is our strength. It is unbelievable as to what is happening in this country in terms of the illegal migration that is going on. We have provinces like Manitoba that are dealing with all of these Somalis entering in. And in particular, the province of Quebec.
You just hit
migrants swimming in. It is really quite the something. Canada has never seen anything like this. We have unfortunately now a refugee camp set up. A refugee camp in Canada.
Well, what I was going to ask is where are the most intense hotbeds of Islam in Canada these days? Where are the enclaves of Canadians? For example, in the United States, it's no secret that it's Dearborn, for example. It's Hamtramck. Michigan is a large repository of, as you indicate, Somalis here in the United States. What would be the Canadian equivalent of that?
Oh, that would be Montreal in particular, and Toronto in particular. Yeah. They are real hotbeds in that they are proposing the idea, for example, of Sharia law. And they are bringing in imams from around the world, well, from Islamic states, North Africa, Saudi Arabia, North Africa, and they are getting away with it unfettered. It's really quite something. We have one or two or four or 8 mosques that were under investigation that is being looked at for radicalization, and that it is really the amazing thing. And we are dealing with a Canadian jihad within the mosque, in particular in Toronto and Montreal in Quebec in particular. In that,
so
it is really getting.
It's no
quite
coincidence.
Something. We have imams that preach at a mosque across the country. In fact, like it's just not. They're not contained to Montreal and Toronto. We have imams like Muhammad Mustafa Mustan, who is talking about condemning gays. And he said outright, in English, in a mosque, throw the gays off the buildings. And we are
what they do in Europe, in the Middle East.
Sheikh Ahmad Abdul Kandil. And he is also advocating to kill us, the apostates. We are also dealing with Bessin Abdul Adim, and he is calling Canadian soldiers criminals. Our military are criminals, and thus we must murder them. We have Omar Sabadar instructing men on how to beat their wives in Canadian mosques. We have Sheikh Sayed Regeh, who once again is calling to kill us, the apostate. We are dealing with Shabaz Sharif Madeh, and he is wanting to establish the Islamic State in Canada. The list goes on and on. It goes on and on. They are preaching in Canadian mosques, and they are not only preaching in the grand mosques, they're preaching in storefront mosques where they have no license to do so. They set up these storefront mosques. They disguise them as being a shoe shop. But on Friday afternoon, that shoe shop is shut down, and the Muslims swim in, and they engage in their jumping Juma Freaky Friday. We have the issue of mega mosques being built in this country. I don't know if people are aware of this, but in Fort McMurray, Alberta. Fort McMurray is pretty much the land of the midnight sun. It is so north of Canada that you're lucky if you can catch a wink of sleep because of the sunrise and sunset cycles there. Well, the Sunnis are setting up a mega mosque, and this thing is going to be huge. It is going to rival Dearborn, Michigan's mosque, which is right now tabled as the largest mosque in North America. Well, this mosque in Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada, is going to surpass that. This thing is going to be 111,000 feet.
Square feet.
Laid out on 10 acres.
Perfect. Just what you need. We have 2 more minutes to go before the bottom of the hour break. And we're talking to KEL FRITZI. She's broadcasting, my mistake. She's calling from Canada. This very brief question for you before we go, and I'm going to have a question for you to ponder over the break, but you broadcast on Blog Talk Radio, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that purposely so that you can speak your mind from Canada, correct?
That's right.
And folks, doesn't that say anything and everything that you need to know about the current state of affairs in Canada right now? And the answer is yes. So we're going to go on a break. KEL FRITZI, when we come back, I have a question, actually 2 questions for you to ponder over the break. Number 1 is Islam is just a religion. Why should anyone fear Islam? And number 2, Islam, is it really a religion? Some points to ponder. Folks, we're talking to KEL FRITZI of RFB Radio. She knows all things Canadian. She is our conservative Canadian sister. We're going to be right back. Don't go away after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of...
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the final segment. You are, in fact, listening to the SHR Media Network. I am the bloviating Zeppelin, live and direct from the SHR Media Network studio, sumptuous and palatial as they are. We've been talking to KEL FRITZI, the conservative Canadian, an infidel, she says. What? Zounds! She cannot be an infidel? Well, Maybe we should ask her. What I posed before the break was this to KEL FRITZI. Hey, Islam is just a religion. Why should anybody fear Islam, right?
Islam is not a religion. That is one thing.
Okay. Here we go. Yahtzee. Bingo. Exactly. That's correct.
Islam is a political ideology. It was born on the ideas of a warlord. And I think that people have to understand that Islam had political ambitions, and it has global ambitions in terms of ensuring that Islam, the political ideology, is adhered to globally. Like I said, it is engaging in that right now via the hijrah that we're seeing happening in Europe and now happening in Canada under the auspices of Justin Trudeau. We are seeing the UN appeasement of Islam. They are indeed engaged in the caliphate. The caliphate being that the entire world will be ruled under Islam. And those are their words, okay?
Yes.
Ruled under Islam, that everybody will adhere to the doctrines of political Islam. You guys have to understand out there that if you read the Quran, and I encourage you to read the Quran.
I have
it's a
2
muddy
copies.
read.
I have 2 copies, and I've read the Shura and the Hadith as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The thing is to understand the surahs and the hadiths, and of course the surahs are the acts of Muhammad, and the hadiths being the ideas of Muhammad, as it were. It is something that you must understand. When you think about what Islam is, it is a very, very understandable. Once you understand exactly what Islam is, you will figure out for yourselves what it is. Now, there are 5 principles of Islam, okay? And there is a trilogy as well. Now, there are the Quran, the Sirah, the Hadiths, right?
Okay.
Islam divides the world into Muslims and unbelievers. We are the kafirs, right?
Right.
The trilogy contains 3 books. The Quran is what Muhammad said, and the Sunnah, or the Sirah, if you like, is Muhammad's biography. The Sunnah is the Hadith, and that is the traditions of Muhammad. So you have to understand, though, that there are several versions of Hadith, but the most commonly used is by Bukhari. And Bukhari was a biographer of Muhammad. Does the Quran really contain over 100 verses that sanction violence? Yes, it does. The Quran contains at least 109 verses that speak of war with non-believers. And this is purely because of our status as not being Muslims. Muslims think, well, I won't say Muslims. I don't want to corner Muslims. I want to concentrate more on the ideology of Islam, because in my opinion is that Muslims are just as much under victimhood as the rest of us when it comes to the ideology of Islam. So I really try to stay away from incorporating Muslim in my discussions with this. I like to stick with the ideology and political ideology of Islam, because we are all victims under this. if we allow so. And that, unfortunately, includes the Muslims that probably desperately want to leave, but they're afraid of the hex upon their heads, as it were, if they leave. If they leave as apostates, they will have a fatwa on their heads, right? But when you look at the Quran, you look at certain chapters in the Quran, you look at chapter 2, verse 191 to 193. You kill them wherever you can find them, okay? And you look at Quran, verse 2, 224. Fight in the cause of Allah, and Allah heareth, and knoweth all things. Now that's important to understand. Quran 2, verse 244. Fight in the cause of Allah. That's very important to understand. This is why we're seeing all of these terrorist attacks right now. This is why, we've been seeing the terrorist attacks for 1,400 years. It's because Muhammad said, go out and slay them wherever you find them, and beat them, kill them, until they are submitted. There's a reason why you're seeing all of these terrorist attacks going on, because the Mohammedans, not the Muslims, the Mohammedans are engaging in the word of what Allah told Muhammad. There are so many passages in here. Like I say, there are at least 109 verses that speak of war with non-believers. And, of course, that is based on their status as being non-Muslims. When you approach an adherent to Islam, a devout adherent to Islam, and believe me, most Muslims are not adherents to Islam. There's 1.5 billion Muslims globally. 80% of them don't want anything to do with the Quran. They just want to get on life. They want to be left alone with all of this. But these are the devout, and thus I call them the Mohammedans. They will adhere to the word and the deeds of Muhammad. This is why we're seeing all of these terrorist attacks and the Allahu Akbar being screamed into the streets. We see the remarkable audacity of Mohammedans, for example, in France, that clog the streets for Friday prayer. We see their outright belligerence within our legal system. Now, Mohammedans, my apologies, Mohammedans do declare that Sharia law is the only law that we recognize. Now, Sharia law is, to them, a holy law. They do not recognize man-made law, i.e., our Constitution in the United States, our Constitution in Canada, our legal Constitution in the United Kingdom. They do not follow the Magna Carta, in which our constitutions and our laws were built. They do not believe in secular law at all. They believe in Sharia. And with Sharia, it also encompasses the hudud. Now, hudud is the punishment aspects of Sharia law. We don't say that too often. We see the sensationalism of it. We've all seen clips of people getting their hands cut off for robbing a loaf of bread because they're hungry. They are caught. They are sent towards an Islamic tribunal, found guilty, and their hand and their foot is lopped off for thievery. That is the hudud of Sharia. Sharia actually encompasses issues like marriage, divorce, custody, divorce settlements, that sort of thing. But the offshoot, of course, is the hudud, and that is the punishment aspects of Sharia law. And a lot of Mohammedans adhere to that. We are in very dangerous times if we allow the creeping of Sharia law to be infiltrated in our Western nations. We have seen what's happened in the United Kingdom, what happened about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, maybe it was 15 years ago. All the same is that the United Kingdom, they acquiesced to the imams that said, you know, let us set up some Sharia courts. We'll just deal with family issues, you know, settlements.
Right, we'll just police ourselves.
State, that sort of thing. Sharia. Well, there are now close to 100 Sharia courts in the United Kingdom. And we are fearful in the West, and we should be, all of you should be fearful in the West, that if Sharia law continues to institute itself in the West, it may lead to the hudud method. And the reason why I'm saying we should be fearful is because Islam is also political. Political Islam is taking a foothold in the West, and they are doing this by electing representatives, whether it be on the school boards or in municipal city hall, for example, whether it be your Congress or your Senate, whether it be in my country, the Parliament in the United Kingdom, they are getting elected, and they're getting bold about it. We talked about what's happening in Bulgaria, is that there is a political party called Islam Party.
Really?
And they have 36 members right now. And Brussels is coming up for their elections in October with 38 ridings representing, and 36 are within the Islam Party. And they just might be elected. This is how it is starting in our eyes. It started 1,400 years ago, but it is starting in earnest right now. We have a registered party in Bulgaria called the Islam Party, and they are getting the votes, and they will get seats. This is the municipal level. My apologies. They are getting the votes all the same. You look at the passages out of the Quran. Those who believe fight in the cause of Allah. Chapter 4, verse 76. I swear that we are in deep trouble. The worst one is chapter 9, verse 29. Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden, which has been forbidden by Allah and his messengers, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are of the people of the book, meaning you and me as Christians and Jews, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Which means once they take a foothold and they have a modicum of power, they will start to enact their Quranic ideologies upon you, the kafir. This is not me being an alarmist. This is me telling you the truth as to exactly what is going on out there. And it is frightening.
We got about 10 more minutes before the end of the show.
Your second question.
Well, we got about 10 more minutes before the end of the show. And we've heard, and we have a pretty good idea about what's happening with regard to Islam. We've discussed it in Canada. We've discussed a little bit of it in the United States. Much more to discuss. However, that being said, Islam is a veritable hotbed in Europe. We all have seen what happened when Angela Merkel opened up her arms and let literally millions and millions of Syrian refugees, and I say this as an air quote, refugees, into Western Europe. They were flooded, and most failed to assimilate. So a very basic question to you, KEL Fritzi, is this. Can Europe be saved?
I think it can. I think, though, it has to happen right now. It has to happen right now. I think that we have to have civil wars at this point. That's what it's going to take. It's no longer a matter of elections. It's no matter a longer of people acquiescing to the demands of the government. I think the governments have to be taken to task, and that means literally a civil war. Sweden is in dire straits.
Yes, they are.
As is Norway. I think it can be saved, but we have to ensure that the European Union is dismantled, because the European Union is really running the show over there. We have to be rid of the European Union, but we also have to be rid of the United Nations in order for this to take fruition in liberating ourselves from globalism. This is what is holding us back right now, and I say that as a collective, but that's what's holding Europe back right now. It's the globalist tentacles. Once we get rid of that, then we can start once again to engage in our autonomy and ensure the sovereignty of our nations and assure our borders. Borders, language, culture.
Yeah, Michael Savage was right. Michael Savage said that.
Michael Savage.
Now, I'm not a big fan of Michael Savage. I don't want to kill the messenger, but I do think that he has a great and excellent message. Just like you said, borders, language, culture. Every nation has the right to be sovereign, to be self-dependent, to be independent, and self-determinant in terms of where they want to go, what they want to do. There is a spark of what I consider to be positivism around in Europe, and that's this. Eastern Europe. What Hungary, for example, is doing with regard to the pushing away of Islam, and what Hungary is doing with regard to all of the little leftists that are in Belgium from the EU, I think there is a possibility that by way of Eastern Europe, the rest of Europe may come around. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think what's happening in Hungary is amazing, and what's happening in Poland right now. In Hungary, Viktor Orban, I am so pleased that he won his third majority last month. That is just amazing. And I think that Denmark is also on the right road to a victory in redetermining its path to a sovereignty as well. I'm a little worried about the United Kingdom. I'm worried about England with Theresa May, and of course France with Macron. That's very frightening to me. These are globalists, and of course Angela Merkel. I think that she should be hanged for crimes against humanity. These are countries, though, that can be dealt with within Europe. Like I say, once we get rid of the European Union, and once the UN loosens its stranglehold on all sovereign nations, the better we will be off. We will win. We can win. We'll be
it's
tired.
Possible, yes.
It'll be a tiring, and it'll be bloody, I'm sure, but we will win. I'm positive.
Well, if there's one thing that you have to say about Islam is it plays long ball. And when it thinks about long ball, it doesn't just think 1 year in advance or 5 years or 10 years. It thinks decades in advance, which is something that most Western civilizations, quite frankly, are absolutely terrible at. So what's the future? What's the future for Canada? Is there a chance for Canada, in summary, tonight, to come back? Can Canada rescue itself?
If we get rid of Justin Trudeau in 2019, we have a modicum of a chance in that we need a majority conservative government to do so. If we don't have a majority conservative government in which Andrew Scheer, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, if we cannot be rid of all of these bills that Justin Trudeau has introduced, for example, Bill C-75, which would take conductible offenses to summary offenses, is just going to be maddening for us. We got to get rid of Bill C-76. We've got to get Bill C-16 out of there. We've got to do something to reverse the damage that Justin Trudeau does and is doing and continues to do. We have to ensure a conservative majority government in 2019. If we don't have that, we are lost, BZ. We're lost. If Trudeau is reelected in 2019, Canada won't be the Canada that we remember.
Okay, final question for you tonight. And folks, we've been talking for the full 2 hours to KEL FRITZI right here in the saloon. Final question for you. Do you think Canadians are going to re-elect Justin Trudeau in 19?
It won't be Canadians. It'll be the migrants.
Okay.
Because Bill C-76 assured that those that don't have proof of citizenship can vote as long as they have a registered voter to vouch for them. As long as they show up at the voting poll with a utility bill and they're not registered, they can vote. So I'm very, very concerned about that, and I'm saying that very, lightly. But if you want me to be quite frank, I'm terrified.
Okay.
That we're going to end up with Justin Trudeau in 2019 again.
Okay. Folks, it's the end of the show. We've been talking all night for the full 2 hours to KEL FRITZI. Finally, can you tell everybody, Kel, where you can be found, where you can be read, and most importantly, where you can be heard?
You can listen to me at RSB Radio, courtesy of Blog Talk Radio and Spreaker, Monday afternoons and Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
I am also IAW, courtesy of Global Patriot Radio, courtesy once again of Blog Talk Radio, Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. I'm a panelist at Reactionary Speaks, Ideas Are Bulletproof, courtesy of Spreaker, Friday evenings at 8 p.m.
Okay.
My primary shows.
All righty. Thank you ever so kindly, madam, for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate your donation of all your gracious time, particularly in light of the fact that you're way over on the right coast and it's almost 1 a.m. where you are. So that, if for no other reason, that's why I am particularly appreciative. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, My pleasure.
Thank you. And you have a good night, madam.
You
wow.
too, sir. Thank you. Thanks, BC.
Thank you. That was a great time. That was an informative time. Next week, we're going to go back into politics. Next week, I suspect we're going to be talking to Dan Butcher again and anyone else that I can happen to dredge up. And I'm still working on a certain few people, a couple of authors and an individual whose articles I read quite a bit right here in the saloon.
Monsieur, I can walk.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I want to say thank you ever so kindly for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct here at the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, on my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net, and if you want to send me hate mail because what the fuck everyone else does, BZ at SHRmedia.com. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at ReverbNation.com. Promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and also by Boeing. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And of course, by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting. After all, this is a tough Thursday at the end of the show. Thanks again to KEL FRITZI for being here tonight. Thanks for everyone listening live. Thanks for everyone being in chat live. Everybody have a great weekend. Next week, next Tuesday, I'll be back 11 p.m., 8 p.m. Pacific. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.